Welcome back. I want to start with our first segment for today, as we were talking about the idea of pushing and motivating entrepreneurship all across the country. We all know that when it comes to this, definitely, or even talking about the SMEs, these are the main pillars of boosting economy in any country. And actually, Egypt succeeded a lot in this respect. And actually, Egypt provided many different facilities to the new generation in particular to start their own new jobs, giving them even the know-how just to start his own business. And this is something of great importance, of course. Right now, we have with us Dr. Tara Kady, professor at the American University in Cairo. First of all, Doctor, good morning, Doctor.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Talking about the idea of the entrepreneurship and motivating the new generation, of course, this is something of great importance, but I have to start not from the economic point, but talking about it in general, talking about how can we promote the concept itself, especially among the students in the universities in general.
Right. So are we talking about digital awareness or an interest in this? Obviously, this is the booming field. I think we were lucky with, I hate to use the word lucky with COVID, but COVID has
it taught us a lot actually when it comes to business. Definitely you have to take benefit of all what is going on.
So setting aside the negatives and the unfortunate outcome, if we look at the positive, it has highlighted the importance of going digital and not delaying it. I mean, it has sped up the process, and I think this has shown the world that, you know, we need to go digital, and so this was an important element. Adding to this, the youth, I think, are already very highly engaged online and digital platforms. So it goes hand in hand in terms of, you know, preparing the youth for the new digital developments. They already are aware because of their lifestyles, already have this as part of their lifestyles.
What I liked about this idea is that we created new jobs, actually created something that is creative. I mean, talking about economy, digital economy, for example, we have seen many of the youth, and sometimes not only youth, some of the women, housewives, they started to start their own business using the internet or the social media.
Yes, I think it's, I mean, two things. The youth, of course, because they're very creative and they're not burdened with the fears and barriers that others, older generations might have developed because of, you know, life circumstances. So they're fresh, they don't have all those obstacles and barriers psychologically, they feel they can do anything, they're more risk-taking, so I think it's a perfect fit for
Maybe you mentioned the keyword risky.
Yes.
Because if you are not ready to take a risk and have alternative scenarios, you won't be able to start your own business.
Exactly. So I think that's a very nice combination in terms of youth and the digital, you know, boosting all the digital economy and venturing into all those new platforms, businesses, and they're very creative. And so you see a lot of people coming up with little ideas, you know, that are very creative and they solve certain issues. And I mean, seen many, like with the iPhones and with the mobile phones and, you know, all those.
So you are boosting problem solving as well.
Yeah, like 16-year-olds who've come up with apps that, you know, and that were bought by other people because they're so there's a lot there. With the women, it's a whole new arena. I think it's very powerful. It has empowered women who are confined to their homes, and they want to do a lot, but because of, you know, taking care of family and kids and other responsibilities, their hands were tied. So I think there's a lot.
You know, when I look at this idea from a different perspective, just I can feel that it is something moving in parallel. When we talked about women in urban places and talking about empowerment and supporting them in small and medium enterprises to start their own work, especially if they are responsible for responsibilities at home.
Yes.
And talking about women who are educated and they have many other chances, but they decided to use the internet on their own, the social media, to promote for new kinds of businesses.
Right.
And this is thinking out of the box, let me put it like
very
this.
much. I mean, they're the traditional ones of, you know, making food and selling it, or selling accessories and clothing items, but they've gone beyond, and they've come up with very interesting initiatives, really. So I'm really impressed. I mean, on the local level, we've had some really interesting ideas generated, not just with women, but also younger people who've come up with, because they know what's needed. And I think it's just about finding a problem that has not been not solved, but coming up with a new approach to
thinking
deal
out
with
of the
problem.
box.
Thinking out of the box.
If I'm talking about the new generation, especially you are working in a university,
Yes.
you are close, of course, to the students,
Very.
talking to them. Tell me more about the idea now. In the past, we used to see people, they are much more interested for working on desk and moving on to multi-companies, and international companies, all of these things. But right now, can I say that we started to see people who are interested to create their own businesses?
Definitely, definitely interested to create their own businesses, and the whole traditional idea of going to the office and having a 9-to-5 job has been abandoned. I mean, as I said, COVID gave us a good push because there was resistance to this idea before, but now we know that it's doable, it's manageable, and that the traditional methods of going in, signing in, having fixed working hours at a job somewhere is not necessarily the way to go, and is not really applicable all the time. First, you have the resistance, the resistance to change, and then you start adapting and thinking, okay, how can I make this work? And it happens.
If I'm talking about studying and working, actually, nowadays also we started to see many of the international entities.
Yes.
In the whole world, they are providing more education online.
Yes.
And providing certificates
Right.
as well. And maybe sometimes you feel that you are, curious to know, because definitely when it is virtual, still you cannot trust that much.
Right.
But you have the chance to find out more about the word of mouth and more about people
Right.
who joined before. So can we talk more about this and how far can it help? Because sometimes I want to start my business, but I don't know from where to start. Even they are providing this here in Egypt, but I mean, if you are staying at home and you are not working, you have the chance, for example, to start working online, studying, and then you can find something to do.
For sure. Actually, this is very interesting because that's what I'm saying. The conceptions have changed. The conceptions have begun to change because a few years ago, for example, when I was applying for my PhD, a long time ago, it was very much, there was an objection to any online degree. And it was a taboo, and it was considered a fake or a sham, and everybody said do not do anything online because it will not be accepted or validated here. And now that the times have changed, I think this has transformed because this is no longer applicable, and we see that all universities, all major universities worldwide, have now turned online, obviously with the COVID, but even more so because it's more practical. So we do need to adapt to those changes, and now it's extremely useful. And I believe those old theories are no longer valid or relevant, and they're just misconceptions. And yes, there are ways to validate. That's what I'm saying. You don't pick an unknown source or a college or an entity.
How can we check the source?
That's very easy, by the way. As
I mentioned, word of mouth, but how to make it more, to be more confident in what you're doing?
Of course. It's just like with fake news. You work in this field, so it's just the same thing. You don't just go online and accept anything. You have to check and verify. And there are systems. You go to official websites, you read reviews, you check the background, you just need to do your research, really. It's just like with news. You don't just hear anything and take it as a fact. You need to use your mind and look at the source and look at the validity behind it.
I think also we need to promote this more among people, because in the past we used to send our children abroad and all this. Nowadays we can see many of the international famous schools opening here in Egypt, actually providing all kinds of education and facilities and majors as well, and the new international universities. Definitely there is a boom in education in general that we did not witness before.
Yeah, big boom.
Even with the challenge of the COVID.
Big boom. Many universities are opening. Lots of new opportunities and lots of new sectors and areas and fields of study. So we're abandoning the traditional of, become a doctor or an engineer or a computer. There's so much more now. And I like this flexibility and this broad spectrum. It's very useful, and it's the worldwide trend, so we're fitting into it. And going digital is definitely a priority.
Dr. Tara, still we are talking and still have many points to be discussed, but just allow me to move on to a quick break, then we'll be back to resume our breakfast show.